Hello, welcome to At the Aga Khan Museum. My name is Amirali Alibhai, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this episode devoted to poetry and spoken word. Poetry is a big part of the collection at the Aga Khan Museum and is very important in the cultures that are represented through our collection of Islamic art. And of course, poetry is found on the objects itself as inscriptions. And sometimes it's the inspiration for paintings and certainly the content found in many of our manuscripts. So poetry is very big. We start off actually with this episode with reflections of Hafez, a performance that took place in our auditorium in 2017. And we explored the Persian tradition, and the singer is reciting poetry from Hafez, and whirling dervishes complete this experience that was quite special and that I remember attending many years ago. So I hope you enjoy Reflections of Hafez.
Your breath in my breath is the closest breath to fana. Your breath, my breath, fana. Your breath, my breath, fana.
سرو چمان من چرا سرو چمان من چرا میل چمن نمی کند همدم گل نمی شود یاد سمن نمی کند یاد سمن نمی کند چمان من چرا سرو چمان من چرا میل چمن نمی کند همدم گل نمی شود یاد سمن نمی کند یاد سمن نمی کند دل به امید وصل تو همدم جان نمی شود جان به هوای کوی تو جان به هوای کوی تو خدمت تن نمی کند خدمت تن نمی کند از گذر تو خاک را مشک خوتن نمی کند مشک خوتن نمی کند تا دل هرزه گرد من رفت به چین سفر دراز خود زان سفر دراز خود عزم وطن نمی کند عزم وطن نمی کند ساقی سیم ساق من گر همه دور میدهد گر همه دور میدهد کیست که تن چو جام می کیست که تن چو جام می جمله دهن نمی کند جمله دهن نمی کند سرو چمان من چرا سرو چمان من چرا میل چمن نمی کند همدم خود نمی شود یاد سمن نمی کند یاد سمن نمی کند یاد سمن نمی کند
Hi, welcome back. And now we go to a more recent exhibition that we had at the museum called Sanctuary. And we did a series called the Sanctuary Series. And we invited Maryem Toller, who is a musician, and Dawne McFarlane, a storyteller, to collaborate and to create a story within the exhibition. Please enjoy the story from 1001 Nights, as told by Maryem Toller and Dawne McFarlane. Enjoy.
This story comes from 1001 Nights. Long ago, there was a Shah who wanted to be a good ruler. So one day he dressed in the simple robes of a traveler and went out among his people unrecognized so that he could get to know them better. In the heat of a dusty afternoon, he came to a well. There were 3 sisters talking and filling their buckets with water. "Such a dream I had last night," said the eldest. "I dreamed I married the royal baker and had all of the sweet cakes I wanted to eat." "I dreamed I married the royal cook," said the next sister, "and had all of the savory dishes I wanted." "My dream was the best," said the youngest. "I dreamed I married the Shah. We had children as bright as the sun." And the sisters laughed, but the Shah nodded his head thoughtfully. And a few days later, he summoned the sisters to appear before him at the palace. Of course, they did not recognize him, for now he wore his royal robes. "You do not know me," he said, "but I know your heart's desires. You," he said to the eldest, "tomorrow you shall marry the royal baker. And you," he said to the next sister, "you shall marry the royal cook. And you," he said to the youngest, "you shall marry me. You will become my queen. We will have children as bright as the sun." And because his word was law, all of the weddings happened just as he said they would. And for a while, all of the sisters were happy. But then the eldest two became jealous of their youngest sister, who was the queen. They plotted to destroy her happiness. Before the year was out, the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Her sisters attended her. But before the queen could set eyes on the babe, they took him and put him in a basket, cast him adrift on the stream that ran outside of the palace. And when they returned to the queen and the Shah, they said, "A boy!" Alas, he did not survive. There were tears in the Shah's eyes.
My mother groaned, my father wept, into this dangerous world I leapt. My father groaned, my mother wept, into this dangerous world I leapt. Helpless, ilhauni, naked, telefoni, piping loud, irhamuni, raggauni ila beti, raggauni ila beti, raggauni ila beti, raggauni ila beti.
But the child was very much alive, and his loud cries summoned the attention of the old gardener and his wife, who lived downstream from the palace. They had long ago given up hope of ever having a child. "But now Allah has blessed us with a son," cried the old gardener to his wife. "The waters have brought him to us." They named him Bahman. Before the next year was out, the queen gave birth again to a beautiful baby boy, and a few moments later, a beautiful baby girl. Again, her sisters took the babes before the queen could set eyes on them, put them in a basket, and set them adrift on the stream. "Twins," they said to the queen and to the Shah, "a boy and a girl." Alas, they did not survive. And now grief overcame the Shah. He tore his hair. He rubbed his face with ashes. He blamed the queen. You are the cause of this misery, this grief that devours me. There are holes in my very bones.
برا سليما ومن جوه نحيل العزم خالي حباب القلب طول طم علينا جفيتنا ونحن ما جفينا نحن الأرواح بفداكم عينينا نحن العبيد ريق لحالي.
He blamed the queen. "I can no longer bear the sight of you." And he banished her to a simple mud hut, away from everything and everyone that she loved. But the children were very much alive. Their cries again summoned the old gardener and his wife. "Allah has blessed us again and again with another son and a daughter. The waters have brought them to us. The flowers have created them. Beauty is written upon their cheeks. They named the boy Perviz and the girl Gulnara. They raised the children with love and taught them everything they knew. And when the old gardener and his wife died, the children were not yet fully grown, but they knew how to care for each other and for the garden. One day, when Bahman and Perviz were out hunting, an old wandering wise woman called on Gulnara. Gulnara gave her a soft mat to kneel upon, fresh melon from the garden, bread she had just baked. The old woman ate with trembling hands, as if she had not eaten for a long time. And then she thanked Gulnara. "Because you have been kind to me," she said, "I will tell you of 3 marvels. The first is a tree that never loses its leaves and grows more beautiful with each season. The second is a wellspring of shining water. It shines like gold and never runs dry. The third is a bird who sings so joyfully all of the other birds must join in. And this bird, too, can speak in words."
يا غصننا مكللا بالذهب أفديك من الردى بأمي وأبي يا غصننا مكللا بالذهب أفديك من الردى بأمي وأبي إن كنت وسأت في هواكم دبي إن كنت وسأت في هواكم دبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لنبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لنبي.
"I should like to see these marvels," said Gulnara. "Where can I find them?" "Follow the camel track towards India," said the old woman, and disappeared beneath the low archway. When her brothers came home, she said, "I have learned from a wandering wise woman about 3 marvels, a tree of all seasons, a never-ending fountain, and a marvelous bird. I will to go and seek these treasures. I will bring them back to you." "No," said Bahman, "this quest is too dangerous for a girl. I will go." And he mounted his stallion and set off. After 16 nights, when he did not return, Perviz said, "Bahman is in danger. I must go." "I will go with you," said Gulnara. "It is my fault he is in danger." "No," said Perviz, "this is too dangerous for you, little sister. I will go." And he mounted his stout-hearted mare and set off. After 21 nights, when he did not return, Gulnara knew what she must do. She filled a sack full of dates, and she mounted her stout-hearted, short-legged pony and set off on the camel track towards India.
تكون إلا لنبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لنبي.
For 35 nights she shivered under the glittering stars, and for 35 days she traveled under the hot sun, until finally she came to what looked like a mountain of black rocks. There were her brother's horses grazing nearby. An old hermit sat at the foot of the mountain. "Long life," she greeted him. "Do you know of these three marvels, the tree of all seasons, the water of shining gold, the bird who sings and speaks?" "The marvels you seek are at the top of this mountain," said the old hermit, "but those who go up do not come down again." "I must go," she said. "My brothers are there." "Then go," he said, "but do not listen to the rocks, and do not look back at them." Gulnara wound a scarf about her neck. To remind herself not to look back, she stopped her ears with wool to muffle the sounds, and she stuffed her cheeks with dates to keep herself from crying out. And she began to walk up the mountain. But the rocks slid from underneath her as if they would carry her back down. And the sounds of the rocks, they were calling out taunts and insults. "Your brothers were liars and cowards." She kept walking, but their taunts and insults grew louder. "They looked at us. They cursed us." A great rock broke off from above her and came rumbling so close to her she barely escaped it. "You will be next," it rumbled at her. But she kept walking, and as the calls grew louder, "Shame, shame, worthless girl!" she walked step after step until finally she came to the top of the mountain, and there she found a leafless stick, a muddy puddle of water, and a cage with a bird with drooping feathers barely managing a chirp. "There is no magic here, nor are my brothers." But still, she picked up the leafless stick and hung the bird in the cage on the stick and filled her cup with water from the muddy puddle. And with tears in her eyes, she began to walk down the mountain. But she stumbled, and some of the water from the cup spilled out. It sizzled on the rocks. A swirling mist appeared, and when the mist cleared, where there had been rocks, now there stood men. 2 of these were her brothers, Bahman, Parviz, light of my eyes.
لما خطر
She continued down the mountain with her brothers. She was still carrying the stick, the cage with the bird, and the few drops of water left in her cup. "What good are those things now?" asked her brothers. "We will see," said Gulnara. And when they reached their home, she went to the garden. She planted the leafless stick in the garden, and hung the cage with the bird on it. The few drops of water left in the cup she poured onto the earth. Right away, a wellspring of shining water gushed up. It shone like gold in the sunlight. In the morning, the tree had transformed from the stick, and now it was loaded with green leaves and fragrant blossoms. The bird had fluffed his feathers and was singing with pure joy. All of the other birds joined him. Word of these marvels reached the palace, and the Shah wanted to see for himself. So again he dressed in the robes of a simple traveler and came to call on the children. They welcomed him. When he smelled the fragrance of the blossoms from the tree of all seasons, his troubled mind was cleared. When he drank from the everlasting fountain of shining water, his heart, which had been so heavy, was lifted. And when the birds sang, the grief that he had been carrying in his bones fell from him. Not even the Shah has marvels such as these, he said, or children as bright as you. He does, if he will but believe his eyes and his ears. And the bird spoke in words that all could hear, and told of how he had seen the queen's sisters take the babes when they were newborn, cast them adrift on the stream, how he had seen the gardener and his wife pull the children from the water and raise them with love. The Shah fell upon his knees before the children. I am the Shah and your father. I beg your forgiveness. Gulnara said, it is the queen whose forgiveness you must first seek. And when they appeared before the queen, and she saw her husband's face so full of remorse, and her children as bright as the sun, in that moment there was no room in her heart for anger, and it was filled with joy. Never was there a more beautiful night than the night of their reunion.
محلى ليلة كنا بها يا ناس محلى ليلة كنا بها جلاس محلى ليلة كنا بها يا ناس محلى ليلة كنا بها جلاس محلى ليلة كنا بها أربعة حبي وانا وشمعتي والكاس حبي وانا وشمعتي والكاس يا غصن نقام كللا بذهبك أفديك من الردى بأمي وأبي يا غصن نقام كللا بذهبك أفديك من الردى بأمي وأبي إن كنت وسأت في هواكم مذهبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لنبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لنبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لنبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لنبي.
Well, I personally hope to see more of Maryem and Dawne collaborating together. I think they make very effective storytellers. Another version or manifestation of poetry is spoken word. And we had a chance to work with Hussein Jadavji and Celine George recently, and they created this piece for us, or these two pieces for us. I hope you enjoy the spoken word that challenges our perceptions and talks about social issues. Poetry has been about social change for much of its history. So there's no exception with these two artists.
Thank you to the Aga Khan Museum for giving us the opportunity today to share some of our art with you. My name is Hussein. I'm here with Celine George, a great artist and storyteller. Together we're going to share a little bit of poetry with you. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're keeping safe and healthy. I know everybody should be physical distancing right now, so we thought we'd try and give you something else to think about. I love me some poutine. And I say Z, not Z, see, I am Canadian. But my nationality doesn't define me. I'm a true believer in the beaver, and I hail from the true, no, strong, and free, and Jimmy, Drizzy, Drake, Champagne, Poppy, whatever you want to call them. I remember Jimmy from Degrassi, although I was never a fan. I still am Canadian. But my nationality doesn't define me. And it's funny how people always ask me where I'm from, as if knowing my country of origin will shed some light on who I really am, so I tell them I am Canadian. And they look at me, nah, Hussein, where you really from? I was born and raised in Scarborough, lived in Pickering, grew up singing T.O. But still, that don't make me Canadian. See, them Canadians who stole this land look at me as an immigrant, something insignificant. They call me a minority, as if I'm just a minor piece of the city. They act like their forefathers never traveled across the seas in search for the lands of opportunities while not opting for unity. And as if generation after generation never came here to displace and erase the First Nations, claiming this country as their own and then calling it home. But I'm the immigrant. They didn't have to show no papers, so they're the innocent. So I tell them I'm East African descended from Indian, because my forefathers were fathered as Ugandan, whether it was medicine or hustling, all they cared about was the betterment of the community they grew up in. But in the end, Idi Amin kicked them out for being Indian, and none of them had even seen the South Asian subcontinent. I mean, if I went to Gujarat or Delhi or Punjab, I'd be lost and dismissed. All these Indians be looking at me like, who's this funny looking tourist? Canadian, East African, Indian, nobody wants a piece of all of this. So I tell them my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was Australopithecus. That's right, before Homo sapiens, and Homo habilis was the earliest of the hominid genus. So don't define me by my nationality, because people create borders and borders cause hurt. And you asking where I'm from? Shoo. I'm just going to tell you, I'm an earthling.
Hi, my name is Celine, and these next few verses is titled Sanctuary. Rooted in the word sancta. No, not the man dressed in red and white from the North Pole, no. But sancta, meaning sacred, a haven and a place to be safe in. I think of the savanna, this majestic ecosystem, where the ground is somewhat brown and arid and dry, but its creatures so colorful and alive. The elephant, giraffe, and the lion all sharing this land in perfect harmony and thriving. The land, it has cracks on the ground that form lines of separation, but crossing over is their right. There are no boundaries in creation. It's the largest terrestrial migration. Imagine. The ground is shaking. Thousands of wildebeests, herds of lions, and families of hippos all stomping, and the earth is trembling. These animals are all mixed in and running together, traveling for miles and miles in search of water, answering this innate call that we all have for survival, sharing their ground and their earth with all that are around, singing Hakuna Matata. They dance and they shout because, see, they know this land is not just one of theirs. There's no line on a map that can dare to separate as they travel from the Serengeti in Tanzania to the Masai Mara in Kenya. There's no need for any travel documents, a passport or a visa. You see Mother Nature, she knows you don't close your doors on each other. The Great Migration is a natural wonder of the world. People from all over gather in awe, saying ooh and ah, trying to capture that perfect shot of the wildebeest and the zebra in flawless cohesion. Conservatives and liberals standing next to each other and admiring this vision, understanding how nature fundamentally needs this transaction for its own survival and for our next generation. And then we leave this vacation. We return back to our homes and turn on our television to hear the same words, just in a different formation. Migrant, immigrant, refugee, people of color is all I see, different shades of brown and black wanting to take from me, not here, my friend, this ain't your sanctuary. Go back to your country. It's a different language that you speak. On our values we can meet. We don't have the resources that you need. Too bad you didn't sneak in 100 years ago with me and my clique. I'm sorry, son, but you missed your seat. But now I'll repeat. Mother Nature, she knows you don't close your doors for those that seek. When they land at your step, all frail and weak, ask and they shall receive. Migrant or refugee, my friends, we all deserve a sanctuary.
Tell me why people want to define me by my association to a single nation. As if my entire identity, everything that makes me me, is rooted from a place in which my blood may have been raised in. I mean, I think we're all more than this, really. I think we're an amalgamation of all the people we're connected to and the places we're shaped in. How can you define me by a place anyway? A space defined by a single moment of time, defined by pencil lines easily erased and redrawn anyway, easily erased as easily as the families displaced and relocated anywhere. How can you define me by my association to a single nation? A place where foreign invaders from foreign lands drew foreign lines in our familiar sands over and over and over and. My partner's grandmother will tell you she's Gwadari. Born on the southern coast of Pakistan in this tiny little port city whose flags have changed time and time again throughout history. See, people have been living in Gwada for centuries, and eventually some great empire will show up to claim their reign over the entire community. First you had the Persian Empire, followed by Alexander and his armies. Then came the Mughal Empire, the Omanis, and now everybody in Gwada be considered Pakistani. But with all this influence from China, shoot, they might as well be Chinese. So how are you going to define her by her association to a single nation, a place where foreign invaders from foreign lands drew foreign lines that are familiar sands over and over and over and? They define me as Indian. Defining me by my association to the Indus Valley, where a river divided the land in politics and society, where traditionally people would define themselves by caste, language, labor, or countless other divisions, but when the Brits showed up, they didn't give a what, they just called them all Indians. Then came 1947, the Brits were gone and India partitioned, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the two new divisions. But if you got beautiful, brown skin, rich with melanin, and they can't pronounce your name exactly, it don't matter your caste, language, labor, they're just gonna call you a Paki. So why do I continue to be defined by pencil lines from places that have never ever felt like mine? Where foreign invaders from foreign lands will continue to change those boundaries over time, but those boundaries can't bound me. My roots have no country crossing continents divided by oceans of colonialism and racism. I'm the son of a hustler and a chemist who sought refuge after being expelled forcefully. My mother's tongue is Gujarati, sprinkled with a little Swahili. I came home surrounded by the smells of chicken fingers, grilled cheese, dal, akni, mogo, and matoki. My heart beats to the drum of a Tribe Called Quest, Bob Marley, and Ram Lakan. I am an Ismaili Muslim whose roots run everywhere under the sun. It's not about where my roots are from, but how far my roots have come.
Let me start with a question. What is your sanctuary? When do you feel the most at peace? The calm of the mind, the intentional inhale, and the sigh on release, the moment my head hits the pillow. Just for a second, my mind draws a blank. The heavy lifting is done, Celine. For today you've spent your hours. Just take a moment and breathe. I close my eyes and I'm at peace. I feel it every Saturday afternoon as I drive back to my parents and enter their family room. Decades of memories, pictures and frames, furniture and tables left unchanged, and my parents in their typical arrange, with arms wide open, and I'm in their embrace. Love's everywhere and is all I can see. I close my eyes and I'm at peace. I feel it at church. If you've been to Mass, walk with me on this path. The sermon is spoken, the words have awoken, the bread has been broken. The Lord's Prayer recited in unison, and just before I receive communion, there is a moment of silence. My mind is as clear as can be. I close my eyes and I'm at peace. I feel it when I write, as the words, they travel from my mind down my neck, through my shoulders and into my hands, as the pen that I hold has no choice but to scribe. As it curves and crosses in peaks and valleys, the paper, it holds my words so strongly like the roots of the trees that it came from. My mind is full and my soul is set free. I close my eyes and I'm at peace. I feel it in company and fellowship with one another. Surrounded by my friends and family. Ever notice how we always gravitated to a circle? No rough edges or lines of separation. It's the perfect formation as we laugh and enjoy our creation. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. I close my eyes and I'm at peace. I feel it with complete strangers. In the tiniest of moments we share, it could be the smallest of interactions at the checkout lane or the longest conversation with your neighbor on the plane. I've realized that physical worlds can't separate this connection, which is our resting state. Our collective consciousness consumes what I feel. I close my eyes, I'm at peace. I feel it in nature. In the mountains or at the beach, listening to the sound of the waves or staring at the rays through the trees. My senses heightened, but my awareness so still. My heart is pacing and nature's embracing. Colors all around me, blue, yellow, and green. I close my eyes and I'm at peace. Do you see? When I'm at peace, I sigh at the weight of my day and my duty. I see the smiling faces of my friends and my family. I hear the stories of strangers in my community. I can feel the earth and am grounded by humility. I read the words of my mind and my creativity, and I pray to my Lord, my Creator, and my deity. My friends, it doesn't matter the place or the scenery. The peace that I seek, it lies within me. My body is the highest temple and my true sanctuary.
Growing up, I was always told about this idea of fanafillah, or being one with Allah. I'd say to myself, God, you are my Everest. And I will climb that mountain of life without ever resting just to reach you. See, God was the mountain peak. Some I had to spend my life trying to get to. God was one and I was two, creating this kind of duality. Not really understanding the true reality. You see, La ilaha illallah means there is no God but God. Take that in though. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. One more time. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. There is no being but God. No existence but the existence of God. See, God wasn't just the mountain peak, but my ice pick. God's the shoes I would use to try and get to the top. God's the rope I'd hold on to just in case I drop. God is the entire mountain and not just the highest spot. Shoot. God's everything the universe holds, the whole lot. And this idea of fanafallah is not about two entities becoming one, but really understanding that there are none. None but Allah. See, Ibn Arabi would say, the true goal is this realization that there is no existence but that of God alone. And all them philosophers and mystics and poets have known it's a constant exploration to try and understand God and His creation. The great ones, though. The great ones always talked about the true search coming from within, but will looking at the man in the mirror give me a clear picture of what I'm searching for? All this time I've been looking out at the night sky through a telescope. Should I have been looking inside through a microscope? And how can I see God through my eyes and my lens? Don't I need God's glasses just to see Him? If there is no existence but God, no duality, then is God me? Will this inner contemplation, trying to understand every revelation, be the way in which I take in this true reality? I don't know. All I do know is, Allah, you are hidden gems concealed within a treasure chest. And every disclosure gets me closer to understanding my Everest. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We hope you enjoyed the poetry. Thank you again to the Aga Khan Museum for giving Celine and I this opportunity to share our work with the world. I hope you all stay safe, happy, and healthy. Take care.
Hi, wasn't that great? And now our final piece for this this episode is with Sheniz Janmohamed, who you might recognize from the very first segment. She was the narrator in that particular segment, but she's also an artist, a poet, an author, and she made this piece for us as part of our virtual museum recently. Enjoy Sheniz Janmohamed.
My name is Sheniz Janmohamed, and I'm an artist, spoken word artist, and poet. And I'm so grateful to be joining you today to share a little bit of my poetry with you, as it is National Poetry Month. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what I was planning to do for the Sanctuary series. I was inspired by gardens and the idea of a paradise garden, or the charbagh, also known as a four-walled garden. And what I wanted to do is recreate this garden using natural materials like flowers, rocks, moss, things that you could find in and around your home, especially in the springtime. And create this garden, or the sense of a garden. And at the center of the garden, traditionally there's a fountain, a water, life itself. And at that center of that garden is where I would be reciting poetry. So if you'd like to imagine that you are in a garden with perfumed roses and the sound of rain, perhaps, gentle spring rain, or maybe some birds chirping. And at the center of this garden, you hear a voice, and that voice is going to read you some poetry. So I'm going to be reading from my second collection, Fire Smoke, and the poems are, of course, inspired by gardens and by spring. Before spring, snowflakes fluttering from the clouds like white blossoms. Each dissolves upon touch, where impermanence blossoms. A nun kneels down to plant bulbs by the foot of a tree. Cartwheels of prayer skip through the street. Pink blossoms. If rain swept itself across the hearts of city dwellers, how many seeds would perish and how many would blossom? Branches frozen, a willow is stunned between frost and sunlight. Weaving words like vines, I offer you this wreath of blossoms. Spring. Your breath in mine, my breath in yours. You have taught me how to breathe again. Inhaling you like the forest inhales sunlight, gold before darkness descends again. Come to the garden, I have scattered new seeds and torn out the weeds of our past. Your love blooms like gardenia, lilac and jasmine. Spring has found itself again. I've killed and revived our love as many times as these kohl-rimmed eyes have blinked. If we keep our eyes open to the reality of death, will our love survive annihilation again? My beloved's shrine is lit with 4 lamps. To be the 5th, I set my heart ablaze. These feet stomp into rain and mud. Isra has learned how to dance again. Layla. In this state of madness, I have no one else to blame. I become the fire, the flame, the letters in your name. My hair is tangled and I've lost reason and shame. I become the fire, the flame, the letters in your name. Am I the target of your love? Here's an arrow. Take aim. I become the fire, the flame, the letters in your name. Forbidden to see his beloved Layla, Majnun still came. He became the fire, the flame, the letters in her name. Turning on the heels of this love. Turning around the axis of the earth, she spins the wheels of this love. Others sit like stagnant water, questioning the appeal of this love. Even the swimmer will struggle against the waves of the sea. Surrender to its rhythm and drown. What more can you feel of this love? Dig the soil and rubble of your being. Seek until the madness finds you. This box contains the secret of her secret. Open it. Break the seal of this love. She finds Khizr in the forest of her heart, her robes drenched with mud, whirling into leaves and mud. She turns, turns, turns on the heels of this love.
So that brings us to the end of our episode devoted to poetry. Remember, you can actually experience poetry 365 days a year at the Aga Khan Museum. And if you are interested in our other programming, visit our YouTube channel or go to our website, agakhanmuseum.org. and check out our Museum Without Walls programming. I'm sure you'll find lots of material there that's interesting. Be safe, take care, and until next time, goodbye.